This story is a story I wrote for a class where we were focusing on characters' desires. I decided to go off a quote from Kurt Vonnegut. The quote is, "Every character should want something, even if it is only a glass of water." So here's my story, just a glass of water. Thirst. I drowned in it. That desert-making hot sandy thirst that dried my mouth, making my tongue feel like sandpaper. Just a few more minutes and I'd be off work. I could go get a nice cup of water. The clock hand ticked 1 second at a time, taunting me. Paul, fat, sweaty Paul, sat on my left. He took up too much room and I squeezed my arms to my side so as not to touch him. On my right, Tina looked like she could fall asleep. If I wasn't so thirsty, I could have too. The air conditioning had been broken for a week, and Mr. Windell was too cheap to fix it. Speaking of Windell, or Windbag, as we like to call him, he prattled on at the head of the table. Beads of sweat lined his forehead too, and yet he still kept talking, and talking, and talking. Why couldn't we have snacks at these things? I licked my dry lips, and somehow that made them even drier. Tina was fully asleep now, her arms stretched across the table, and her head rested upon it. If Wendell ever looked up from his notes, he'd know that nobody paid attention during his meetings. Not that it mattered. We went over the same things every time. I kept my eyes on the clock. Tick, tick, and touchdown. 5 o'clock, I said. My voice sounded hoarser than I expected. Tina jerked awake, and Wendell looked up from his papers. Are we clear on everything for tomorrow? He asked, his eyes distant, voice monotone. Yes, I said, grabbing my blank notebook from the table and shoving it in my giant purse. Get numbers up, work on team building. I had just successfully summed up all of our monthly meetings for the last 5 years. Before anybody could say anything more, I was out the door, heading to the break room for that sweet glass of water. The break room was small, more like a long counter with a mini fridge, a sink, and a table for two next to it. So in other words, not a room at all. Little paper cups sat by the sink. I grabbed one and plunged it under the faucet, twisting the blue handle. It squeaked, and nothing. What happened? Sinks broke, Paul said, ambling slowly past me to the door. Since when? Since yesterday. The paper cup fell to the floor. I could have cried, but that would be a waste of liquid. I grabbed another cup. I'll get it from the bathroom. I rushed by Paul, sped past Tina, avoided Mr. Wendell, and pushed the bathroom door open. Yellow tape stopped me. Out of order, it read. I ducked under it. That had been there for weeks, and nobody paid it any mind. Nothing was broken. The toilets flushed, the sink stripped, and nobody seemed in any hurry to fix whatever needed it. Once more I held the cup under the sink, anticipating the fresh smell and taste of flowing water. The handle spun without resistance, and no water sprung from the tap. The sink didn't even have the courtesy to squeak. No, I yelled. I had an hour's drive home, and I was so thirsty. I know. I could stop at McDonald's. No, they were closed for renovations. There was a gas station not far. I could go there. I ripped right through that stupid yellow tape. Everybody else was still in the parking lot by the time I got into my car. How slow could they go? I admit to speeding just a little to get to the gas station. It didn't matter. No cops were around. The place was clean, and a few old ladies hovered around a rack with day-old bread. I made my way back to where the freezers waited with beverages inside. The pickings were shockingly slim. Orange and grape sodas, Coke, and a variety of energy drinks filled the window. No water, not even a sports drink. I headed for the restroom. Perhaps there was a drinking fountain. A thin hallway stretched to 2 doors with men and women written across them in generic lettering. I stepped into the ladies to be hit by a foul odor of too much cleaning fluid mixed with shit. It was like being in an outhouse. With all the chemicals, you'd think it would at least be clean. But the dingy coating of time covered the floor, the walls, and the sink. Nothing short of demolition could save this room now. When I turned the tap, water spewed forth. It smelled like sewage. I let it run, hoping the smell would dissipate. It didn't. In fact, the longer it ran, the more I could smell the eggs. Was I desperate enough to drink rotten egg water? I decided I wasn't, and left. Hey, where can I buy some water? I asked the clerk, a curly-haired youth with stoned eyes, on my way out. You can try the vending machine. Where's that? Around the side. I took a trip around and found the vending machine. Not only did it have better sodas, root beer, Dr. Pepper, Mountain Dew, and Sprite, it had water. Sweet, clean, spring water. I put my dollar in and hit the button. 4 quarters clanged in this change slot. I tried again with the same result. I banged my head against the shiny blue surface and sank down. The machine rumbled and a Sprite popped out. It was better than nothing, and would at least get me home. I popped it open and it exploded, hissing and spraying frothy, sticky liquid everywhere. I didn't even try to stop it. Defeated, I drank what little was left. My throat continued chugging air even after the last sip disappeared. I was still thirsty, and now I needed to wash as well as drink. I contemplated going back in and using the egg water, but then everybody would see my humiliation, and smelling of Sprite was better than smelling of rotten eggs. I'd wait till I got home, and tomorrow I'd bring some water with me.
If you like what you heard, subscribe to my channel by clicking the button subscribe.